is on, got it. Okay. All right. I'm Randall Cook and I'm calling this meeting to order of the Neskowin Community Plan Subcommittee. The agenda for today, I would like to seek approval. Let's see, we have three of us, so I guess that's a quorum. But I do expect, I was hoping Tom and Guy would be here. So I would like to seek approval for the agenda today. So please raise your hand if you. Okay, the three of us say yes, we approve the agenda. Minutes of July 29th, we were having those minutes stand as the recording, I think is what we've agreed to. And so those are approved because there is a recording of the meeting. And a request for disclosure of conflict of interest by subcommittee members. So Lori, do you have a?
I have none.
Lynn?
None.
None, and I have none. Okay, thank you. So we are looking at a few things today that are somewhat carryovers from the last meeting. I know we got some, we got a version 4 of the values and vision and values statement from Tom. And that should include any edits we found or wanted to see in there. As have you guys read version 4?
Yes.
Okay, and is there anything you want to add or get Tom's attention to?
No, I mean, I think we're there. I think I'll be really curious to see, because when it goes out for public release, how people react to certain things, because I'm always surprised by things that I took for granted that other people are just like, so that's going to be the acid test, but I think he's done a great job.
Yeah, I found something that I had corrected before. He said, no, you're looking at version 3, Rand. Version 4, I fixed it in version 4. Okay.
So I do have something, but I realize now that I'm looking at version 3, revision 3, so I might be off too. I think I brought it up. I have an issue with the sentence that said, although the Neskowin community strongly resists the incorporation of any fossil fuel stations, we do advocate the electric vehicle charging stations as a way to help preserve the clear air quality. My family is owners of 2 electric vehicles, so I'm clearly in support of electric vehicles, but they do attract added visitors to Neskowin if we put them here, because we plan our routes specifically about where there's a charger in a place that we want to hang out for an hour. And so if we put public chargers, it most likely be there by where the post office boxes are near the store and across from the wayside, or potentially in the wayside, which is already a crowded place for visitors to park. I think I would love to see electric vehicle chargers encouraged on people's private property, if there's a way for us to do that. But I think we should think hard about whether we want to be a destination for electric vehicles that wouldn't be in Neskowin otherwise.
I think so I have an EV charger at my house. And there are EV chargers, public ones, significant ones at the gas station in Otis. And I tend to agree with you. I don't want to reduce public access to the beach. And the last couple times I've driven through that area, I'm like, whoa, we're beyond capacity here. it's almost dangerous because we've got so much, you know, it's only built for so many parking spaces. So plus someone would have to pay to build them in. Someone would have to figure that out. So, I mean, to me, the most likely person interested would be the gas station or the Hawk Creek because, you know, that it's it cultivates clientele.
Mhm.
But I agree with you. It's kind of a conundrum, but I also think that EVs are going to be so prevalent going forward that any public way station is going to have some capacity there just because, you know, people need them. So I'm fine either way. Someone has to make the investment and you know, that's the first issue.
Okay, well, I'd say we don't have a clear definitive perspective, but it's pretty much that is not the greatest use of that space at this point in time, because it's already at or over capacity for just people trying to get to the beach.
Well, we have people lining the highway on certain days.
Right, right.
Which is not always safe. for
No,
the-
it's not safe at all.
So I guess just making an accidental increase in that on a busy weekend because somebody saw on the
Yeah.
EV charger guide that we were a place to charge. Anyway,
Okay, so we'll talk about either just straight taking it out or advising some other
either we could
action.
think of another action. I mean, we could bring it up for discussion and see what the general community thinks.
Right.
Or
mine-
we could just erase it and talk about other things.
Lori.
Possibly remove. Okay. All right.
But yeah, obviously, I'm not opposed to people charging the vehicles, so that's not my point.
Right.
I think that if we say anything, what we should say is we need to limit or structure consideration of EV out. First of all, we have to, I don't know who's going to pay to put it there, right? But I guess private companies probably do that. But I think they have to be weighed in terms of supply and demand and access to the beach. I think that's the point we should make, is that is a increasingly popular site for parking your car to get to the beach. It's a nice beach access for handicapped people because it's cement or it's asphalted down to the flats. So we need to weigh those community values in that. If we get any choice. Again, property owners can probably do it without a conditional use permit. I don't know.
Okay. Well, that might be enough for this moment to get it that far. And I think getting some feedback about it at a public meeting has potential or not.
Yes.
Okay, well, that was a little soft on the first item here, but we'll leave it at a soft handling of that. So I thought we were gonna review the R1 through R3 ordinances. And I don't know if that's all on Guy's shoulders or if have you guys done any collaborative work?
No, I haven't heard from Guy, and part of the deal was talking to Sarah. Guy was going to talk to Sarah because part of what we need to know is that whole discussion we had about what can we do that would be not walking into the hornet's nest of a taking or a horn. You know, we wanted to ask Sarah and the planning director and or any other people in the county, permitting, etc., is kind of, okay, we've been really smart in the past about what we've done, height limitations, all these things, skinny streets, etc. What is it we could do going forward that would not trigger a takings and would sustain our community values? I mean, can you at least just don't be Don't be shy about it. Just say, well, you need to look at X, Y, and Z. So that's the conversation Guy was going to have with Sarah. He was going to get back to us. I haven't seen any documents, and we're probably just in a pause mode while Sarah and Guy get caught up. I don't know if the planning commission has met since we last met, but seems possible not.
Yeah, well, it seems like everything's in a kerfluffle because of the FEMA thing and the tax situation, you know, with the anticipated deficit, and seems kind of stalled out, which makes it hard for
think-
us to get stuff done.
Yeah, and I do think that, I mean, and maybe it's just a function of age, but timing is everything. And right now, it seems to me the county is up to its eyeballs and not able to fund existing commitments that it has made. So I just, it really is on Guy's shoulders as the person who's closest to the county to tell us if there's any opening here. And I'm trying to think if we could come back at it in a year or so if things get better at the county. But I also don't think it's impossible. I'm trying to think through. Well, I think we need to hear from the county what our window of opportunity is. I don't see it. I don't know. There's too long a list of things already not being done. If it gets
Yeah.
any longer, I think people are, going to get crabby. So we need to hear from them. And also the consultant, the other thing is, I'm sorry, but the consultant who was paid by the state to help with this housing implementation should also be able to point us in the right direction.
Right.
If there's
Yep.
something we can do.
Right, but we haven't even met
Nope.
them.
Nope.
We've got
Nope.
no
Nope.
contact. So it's been a bit frustrating here. And let's see, and we can't talk with Tom about the timeline. I got minimal feedback from him on one or two things, but he seemed confident that things could continue. I know Guy had wanted to have the history piece in the appendix be the Stephen Beckham timeline thing. Stephen Beckham history piece that he was going to update and research. Oh, okay. Tom's just going to join us. He didn't have it on his calendar. So that will help if Tom can join us. He can give us firsthand perspective.
And I do think, Rand, today that we should identify. I mean, I know we've got a tentative date on the calendar for the public meeting, but that's the part I think we most need to. I know we're reluctant to do that because we don't know if our work is going to finish, but I think if we can't finish by now, I think we need to finish and then we can add, change, and improve as needed, I guess, is my bottom line. I'm very worried about Tom's time.
Right. There's Tom now. So the other thing is that the NCAC talked to Sarah at their meeting with her, and I think they scheduled a couple of times for her to speak both about, it was the FEMA thing, and maybe it's I don't know if it's the 406 or what, two meetings that they agreed that they would schedule in September for her to present. So anything that we do, we have to make sure it's harmonious with what the schedule that Sarah has to present to the entire community. And So this is kind of the first time that I can remember that we have both the subcommittee and the general NCAC meetings dealing with the same subject matter. And so we have to have some coordination of that so that we're getting the information that we need from the county and from Sarah, and the general public is getting that. But at that same time, that's the time we might want to be able to discuss ordinances and how those subjects might apply to it. But maybe that's too much because it'll be a general meeting. We'll probably have to have a separate thing after that to say, okay, given Sarah's information that she provided, here's how that would apply to our responsibility, which is the ordinances.
So we have our next group as ourselves on September 9th at 2:00. And so anything we can't get done today, that's our next opportunity to do it. And then the community meeting that we calendared at our last meeting is Saturday, September 21st. And so to your point, Rand, if we think Sarah is not going to have information for us prior to that time, I'm not sure we should convene at that time.
So, Lynn, what information were you looking from Sarah? I know we just recently in the last executive board meeting, we scheduled September 25th for her to present a basically a 2-hour long meeting on around STR caps.
Oh, so what I think the step that we were looking for from Sarah was her meeting with Guy on what ordinances, if any, we could produce in this community plan for submittal that would be helpful to realizing the vision of Nescoin in the context of, the county's resources, the county's fear of a takings issue, and the and all this FEMA stuff. So we were hoping at this meeting today, or again, our next bite at the apple is on September 9th, to have some conversation. Guy was going to get with Sarah, and we'd have something to either include in the plan or not include in the plan, but something there. And so if she's coming on the 25th to do a 2-hour presentation, then we may not, again, want that 21st meeting. That seems a little tight to me.
Right,
But
close.
But if the 25th is if that's the FEMA piece she's going to talk about, or is she going to talk about the budget?
Midterm rentals.
No, that was about, she needed to get community input for the STR caps and timelines because she's getting a lot of pressure on applicants who want to know more information about what's the certainty of rules going forward. Then on October 16th at 6:30, she's going to present the FEMA regulations requirements update.
Which
So that-
she sort of implied throws a wrench in everything we're doing.
Yeah.
Right.
Which I'm not sure is the case unless we let it. So we need to have that conversation with her.
Yeah. Well, the STR thing is kind of not something we're dealing with. I mean, we're dealing with it as a CAC, but not as a subcommittee.
Right.
And the FEMA thing is kind of not necessarily our bailiwick as far as we can tell, unless there are things that we would write that would support the or ameliorate the complications that the FEMA thing has caused. But guys seem to think that was pretty minimal in our community, more in other communities. But I don't know how fair of an assessment that is. Our big thing was still to get something figured out for SB 406 and high high density housing and what we might do relative to that. And Lori has some ideas about that as far as having things in place that help deal with higher density housing regarding noise, light, parking, and
Smoke and barbecues.
smoke and barbecues and, just having and apparently in Portland, Lori, why don't you, let's switch. I'll mute and you tell about the community.
Laura,
Laura,
you're muted.
muted.
Okay, now okay, so I think you have to turn off.
Stop video and.
No, on this,
Oh, this. There we go.
okay. So I've been thinking about what we can accomplish to help minimize the impacts of increased density if we get these duplexes and fourplexes and just the lots being filled up that are being built on in Esquin. And it seems to me like with the reluctance that Sarah has had about any kind of ordinances that restrict people's property rights in any way, or the use of their property, we might have pushback about ordinances that have to do with kind of helping people lessen their impact on their neighbors with increased density. But in Portland, they have a program called a Good Neighbor Agreement, which when there's a apartment that's causing problems, or there's a restaurant that wants to suddenly have live music at night, or there's different things that are happening, the immediate neighbors often it's a neighborhood association, they meet with the owner that is potentially seen as being a nuisance, and they create this thing called a Good Neighbor Agreement, which lots of times says, we'll stop our music at 10 p.m. We will encourage our patrons to take the bus instead of park in front of your house, different things like that. And I was wondering if that was something that is worth it for us to try to build into our community plan, a good neighbor agreement to encourage people to treat the density issues, the neighbors' needs and density issues with respect. And kind of the topics I was thinking of was, one of them is noise. And I know the SDR ordinance people talked about this a lot. And Sarah flat out said, there's no way we could have a county ordinance about this. But in the STR realm, they did because it was a business use. But they have, I think, in their rules, a rule that says that you can have no noise that is heard outside your property line from 10 o'clock at night until 7 in the morning, that's a quiet time. And so we could potentially in Esquin have in a Good Neighbor Agreement, which was not enforceable by law or by the sheriff or anything else, it's just a Good Neighbor Agreement, but an expectation that there's a quiet time between 10 and 7. We could also have something that said that when you increase lighting, that you do it according to the dark sky initiative for like outdoor entertainment areas. Like if there's one of a fourplex is built and there's decks for entertaining outside, I don't know if you could encourage them to not be underneath the bedroom windows of the neighboring property that's already in place, or I'm not sure exactly where this would go or how it would be implemented, but implemented would be totally voluntary. The only way you can implement it would be if someone voluntarily decided they pay attention. But the 5 issues I was thinking about were noise, light, parking, I don't know how you would say it, but things like smoke and barbecues and stuff coming over into the other your neighbor's yards. And then there's a fifth one. Anyway, and I was considering if it was worth it to at the Nescoin Community Association meeting, if we wanted to have a poll that we just passed out and said, you know, how important are these issues to you as Nescoin becomes more dense? And if they are important to you, how would you rank these 5 issues? And we could get some feedback. I mean, people could say yes or no and just say, no, they're not important to me. Or we would get some feedback about which were the most important.
A response from the committee, please.
So Nescoin North has rules that takes care of all this. So I don't have much of and has an HOA that acts as the
Arbiter.
friendly neighbor committee or the, you know,
Yeah.
arbiter of disputes.
Could you share those?
I will ask if I can. I don't know if I will ask if I can share them. I think they're far more rigid than anyone in Nescoin would like, is my guess. I mean, they're pretty, we had some terrible renters in Nescoin North a few years ago. And we took a hard line and just said, you know, we're all here. And if suddenly 20 people can arrive at a house with 2 bedrooms and 2 bathrooms and ruin everyone's weekend, why is that a good thing? You know, but I will ask the president if I can share them. It seems to me like it wouldn't be a problem, but I'll just tell you up front, they're probably more rigid than the neighborhoods in Nescoin would all agree to.
Well, what I'm wondering is if we could use them as a basis to soften them, but just use them as a starting point to say what does work for the whole community.
Yeah. And I don't think they're mean. I mean, I want to be clear. They're not, you know, they're not highfalutin or anything. They're just, we're going to tolerate this. And after that, we're not going to tolerate it. And we call the owner. The owner is called and has to deal with it. And it really seemed to work really well because, you know, but yes, I'll look into that. And I made a note here.
Okay.
Well, in my neighborhood, I should say our neighborhood, including our new secretary, there's about as many empty houses as there are people who have them. And just what I can see out the window. So social pressure is not going to do a whole lot here, I don't think. Do you agree, Gary?
Yeah, I think speaking specifically on lighting, we have handed out the dark skies brochures to people who have vacation houses that they leave and basically when they're not here, they leave all the outside porch lights on all the time. And we handed those brochures out and I'm sure they acknowledged them, but they didn't do anything about it. So agree, yeah. So I'm not sure how much social pressure really, I mean, it's worth a try, but it's yeah, I know it's not working on our street.
I guess the question would be, is it worth it to try or ignore?
Well, certainly the discussion would be interesting. Whether or not we do anything with it, that's a different question.
I think it, you know, Lori, I think it doesn't hurt to ask people. You know, I think it's like the EV thing. I think it gives credence to our community plan if in our next meeting we're giving them a document and saying this is it. If we discuss these things with people who attend and just say, we just want to hear, we're not sure what we can do. We just want to hear if these are issues for you and if you're interested in engaging with these issues. And if not, you know, we're probably not going to carry them forward because we're not looking for extra work at this time. But it never hurts for people to have conversations about those things, and particularly with the STR thing resolved now, or somewhat resolved. It's a timely discussion, it seems to me, because okay, now we've got that figured out, or sort of. What are we all happy with that, or are there remaining issues? And I absolutely think in our next meeting we should have a kind of, okay, what have we missed category? Is there anything here you're not seeing that you really think is really critical, and speak now or forever hold your peace? And that's why I don't want the FEMA thing to reinvent the wheel. I don't want to let, there's going to be, we never control the federal legal schedule, and the state has to enforce the federal laws. And once we open that door of content, it's very hard to get done. So,
Well, we certainly wouldn't have anything in the FEMA in the ordinance area, but we do have a section that's going to have aspirations. And if we see things that they are advocating in their master plan, their model plan, excuse me, which are onerous, we can say that we don't like that. We don't have to have necessarily a solution. We could just say that's not something that's compatible with the way we see Nesquin going forward. So I think we can comment on it kind of indirectly. I don't think we need to reference it directly.
all right. In the old days, if you were misbehaving in Nesco, and Ken Curry just walked up to your house with a big smile on his face and said, I think we'd all really appreciate it if you just quiet down. And that was it. And if Ken Curry showed up at your door, you knew when he was walking up the path what the problem was, and you were trying to solve it already. So I really liked that model. I know it's outdated, but it was highly civil and effective.
Well, it's the way it should work in a neighborhood who know their neighbors and they know when the line has been crossed.
Yeah. Yeah.
So theoretically that still works, but we're not sure who the people are who are going to walk up the Well, a big question I have here is how we're participating in the NCA meeting, which is next Sunday. And if we want to, that's an opportunity to share an update with a big group of people who will be in the room. And in the May meeting, I thought it was very successful in getting feedback on the vision and values and the questions that we put forward. I thought we got good responses. So since this will be the last gathering of people in a larger group, the thought was, today's thought was to have this concept of the community, what are we calling it? A community agreement? Good neighbor agreement. To have that and get feedback from that as the primary thing that we would do. And I would like to distribute the current version 4 of the vision and values statement, maybe on one side of it or separately.
It's too long.
Uh,
The vision and values is 4 pages.
It's like 4 pages.
Oh. Okay.
There was more than 1 page, in case you didn't.
Yes, that was
That was humor. That was meant to be humor, sorry.
But so maybe it isn't a really functional way to have that piece be.
I think you could, on the survey, or I think you can point them to where it is on the website. And the people who are interested will read it, and people who aren't won't waste the paper.
Okay.
So
Well,
I actually it's Tom, it's 4 pages, right?
4
two
pages.
pages back to back.
All right,
Right.
that's the less I remember it. And yeah, I have to argue for a physical copy of it. Because I think that there are some of us who are not technical and they won't go to a website no matter what.
Right.
And if they're bored with something else, they might actually read this in the meantime. So
I
captive
think it's
audience.
I agree with you, Tom. I mean, I live in a building now with a whole bunch of just a whole bunch of smart young techie people. And for gosh sakes, they don't read things online either. I mean, you have to give them the paper to hold them accountable. And so I think this is a great time to hand out to
Okay.
the community and say, here's where we are, heads up, meeting coming.
And then have the questionnaire be one of the pieces and they can separate that and hand it in.
The question
Yes.
is piece. So on the top, so they see it.
Yes, the questionnaire will be on top and then we'll say the current form of the vision and value statement is the second item that you're receiving, and please hold on to that and read that and go over it, you know, with great attention so you understand what our vision and values are, because you're a part of this. So yeah, okay. So let's plan on doing that. And I guess Lori and I will get together this questionnaire deal and then run it by everyone to see if you have suggestions for how it's formatted and if the questions work for you.
One of
And-
the thoughts that I had along those lines was that I heard at least in one of our meetings that the good neighbor policy should really exactly match the STR policy. And
Right.
that would have a sense of justice, and that these people are being required to do this, but it's actually a good idea. Shouldn't we do it too?
So I looked through the SDR, one of the SDR documents that Sarah had prepared with what was suggested and then what she was telling the county were the pros and cons of the different ideas. And honestly, the only two I found that you could kind of directly go across were the noise and the parking. And the parking, I think most owner occupants would find restrictive in the wording, but that they almost always do anyway. Just because it involves parking in front of your house and having a driveway for your vehicle, and most, I think, people who live here try to figure out a way to make that happen. The other ones, there's like a limitation about what rooms could be used as bedrooms. I didn't find anything at all that had anything to do with how outdoor space was used. So Tom, if you looked through and if all of us looked through and just saw if there's anything else from that ordinance that we could transfer over, I think it's a great idea that everybody be treated the same kind of. And that we acknowledge that as a principle. But there weren't a lot of obvious things that we could just like
Okay.
slide over.
I admit to not having read them, only having heard them discussed. So
Well, I think that even if we just say, these are 5 things we'd like you to give us feedback, we feel that we've asked short-term rentals to do some things that would make life better, and those seem to be equally applicable to everyone. And it
Yeah.
would be a more balanced situation if everyone was to abide by the same things, just as good neighbors. So we'll try and fashion it in a way that alludes to the short-term rental agreement that the county came up with that, and we're coming up with this for our own motivations, but
The other thing that I don't know about, but is in the that new law, the SB 406. Do they have things in there that we could adopt just as good neighbor things for Like, do they have things that help buffer the fact that they are increasing density, or is it all just about making sure we can get more people on the lot?
I would have to look, I haven't looked at it in really since we started this process. But I would be surprised if it had good neighbor things because of the variance of that around the, first of all, because HOAs and CCRs have a certain status and different parts of the country, your cow's on my property and get your cow off my short-term rental. I mean, it would be hard to do effectively for the whole state because the state's pretty diverse. But I'll go back and look at it. I don't recall it having those kinds of like dark streets and those kinds of things.
Yeah.
Okay, well, we'll try and study that this week so that we can get it published and arrive at the meeting ready for people to use it. So that will be a key project between now and the September 1st meeting. So back to well, these other things really kind of were on Guy's agenda. I don't know where he is.
Ran, I have to leave for another meeting at 3:00 in a few
Right.
minutes. And so I have the 4:00 meeting on Sunday. My guess is Guy will be at that 4:00 meeting on Sunday.
I'd expect him to be, yeah.
So maybe we can just corner him and just kind of maybe Lori, are you going to be there and Tom? Because we
Yeah.
could just have a kind of,
This is a fire hall meeting
Oh, yeah, I'm gonna be there.
Sunday.
yeah, maybe we could just put our heads together and not really have a meeting, just have a little tete-a-tete, and kind of get on the same page with the rest of the schedule going forward. Maybe that would be helpful. And I certainly think it'll be a big deal to hand out Tom's very eloquent vision statement for Pager. I think that will be huge and show the community that we're on track.
Oh, thank you. I'm seldom eloquent, so I appreciate that.
I think it's eloquent. I really do.
Yeah. Okay, and so we have a meeting the 21st and there's an STR meeting on the 25th, and then there's an October 16th FEMA meeting. So
But do we still think the 21st, we're gonna have enough of substance to, will we
Yeah,
have?
that's Lori, I think that's what we have to discuss at the Sunday
Yeah.
meeting with Guy, because I'd be shocked if we have anything worth convening around at that point. If we're going to write ordinances, I mean, it's hard for me to envision us getting ordinances written and agreed to, and to a certain extent, the fact that there has been resistance to this point makes me think it's not going to happen now. And the FEMA thing is going to be what I think is the reason. Bandwidth. They were out of bandwidth before this FEMA thing. Now they're out of bandwidth, they're out of money, and they got the FEMA thing.
yeah, they're messed up. Well, I just hate to see the whole month of September go by without us really being able to get anything done.
I
Because,
got a few
Well,
things
but-
done.
okay,
But Rand, if we have a meeting on September 1st and we kind of corral ourselves there and put our heads together, not a meeting, just a check-in.
Well-
Then we've still got three weeks till the 21st, and we could notice a meeting if we need to.
okay, so first of all, I don't think we can do that for public meeting law. As far
I
as,
think we can do it as long as you stand in the corner and one of us goes up and talks to you at a time.
okay. Okay, but we do have a September 9th meeting schedule, which is a meeting like today's.
Yes,
And if we're not doing anything besides the September 1st meeting and the presentation there and the document being given out, I think that's all we're gonna do between now and September 9th. So
Yeah.
I think that we should just figure on September 9th, we're gonna be able to get together and assess what can possibly be done with the county and the state that it's in right now. How can we move forward in a constructive way, without much opportunity for Sarah to give us much feedback.
One thing we could do is at the NCA meeting, we could tell people that we are trying to efficiently use community time. And we had tentatively scheduled a meeting for September 21st. We're not sure that we will have information that we need to make that meeting productive from the county before then. But we are meeting on September 9th as a committee. And we will determine if we have that information. And we will post immediately on the website with 10 days notice for the meeting on the 21st. So watch for that. And then we'll have to make sure we send out emails that say, sure enough, we got what we needed. We're gonna have the meeting on the 21st.
So,
We would stay within all of our guidelines.
right, so if we meet on the 9th and we determine we're gonna have the meeting on the 21st or not, then we have more than enough time to get
Yeah.
that out, depending on if Gary and Candace and everyone can facilitate our request to put out the notice. That's our limitation is the physical capability of the NCAC officers and task force to follow through on something that we do if it's a short term. Okay, we decided today we need it out in the next 2 days. Is that, Gary, do you think that kind of timeline is feasible?
Well, I got to tell you, September is the most crowded month right now I can see for everything that's kind of going on right now. There are several meetings scheduled. There's for your 9th, September 9th, community plan subcommittee. There's a special meeting on the 25th for Sarah. There's bylaws committee September 6th. There's a general meeting September 12th. There's another executive meeting on the 18th. And we got to get meeting notices out before, in a timely fashion. And I think we're kind of at saturation point, to be honest.
so let me throw something all that. How about this? Just given what Gary just said, what if we just decide today we're not doing the meeting on the 21st. We're still on schedule with our work plan. The meeting could be the 1st of October, and we could still get done by Thanksgiving, which is our goal. And that way, even if it's like the first week in October, October 1st is on a Thursday, and it's got 5 weeks in the month of October. So we could just, I think we should just take the community meeting off on the 21st, hand out stuff at the meeting, tell them there's going to be a meeting in October. We'll decide on the 9th when that meeting's going to be and be ready to go. I just have no idea. Even whoever is elected president, with all the issues on the table right now for the county, FEMA could have new leadership. We don't know.
Right, yeah.
Or cease to exist.
Or cease to exist, right? There's worst case scenario. So I just think we need to get done what we can get done. We have not gotten traction on this ordinance thing. I'm willing to consider it one more time, but I'm not willing to delay the plan to hold up for some ordinances in the midst of what the county's already got on its plate. Took me 2 years to get a building permit for a garage. So new ordinances at this time seem like impossible, but I'm willing to consider it. But I think we should cancel the 21st, given what Gary said, plan on a meeting in early October, work towards that goal on September 9th, and corral Guy to to kind of say, this is our time. We're either on or off, but we're gonna go.
Gary, what's on the schedule for October?
Let me see. Right now, we have an executive committee meeting on the 23rd. And that's the only thing that, oh, and then the October 16th special meeting with Sarah about the FEMA regulations update.
Right.
That's all I've got so far that's been submitted for October.
So should we claim that October, whatever, 8th or 9th or whatever it is? If Tuesday is the 1st, and is that right?
Yeah, Tuesday's the 1st.
So Monday, the following Monday would be
So,
the 7th. And why don't we figure,
Are you thinking midweek or weekends is better?
well, it's kind of after everyone's left, so seems like weekday evenings starts to make sense for our regular subcommittee meetings. If we're looking for a big public meeting, we're back to the clubhouse or someplace in a hybrid meeting. That probably the weeknight evenings is functional. Because nobody's here for a live meeting after pretty much October 1st.
Well, some of us are.
Well, I mean, as far as if you want 30 people at a public meeting,
Yeah.
it's probably not gonna happen.
So this, just
Uh.
not to be a contrarian, but the other approach to this would be to leave that September 21st meeting on the calendar, and in contrast to what I said before, just tell people at the community meeting, this might not happen if we haven't gotten what we need from the county, so check the
Yeah.
website to make
Yep.
sure it's still on. Before you change your plans to get there. And then we've done the public notice that we need, and they know something's coming, and by the 21st, we should be able to say new date. Right, we could just
Yep.
change this on the schedule that says new date, this is a reschedule of the September 21st meeting. Anyway.
Okay,
I think that's a great plan, Lori. Either way, just, I think that's fine. And then if we get everything in together, we can go with it. And we're ahead of the curve, even though, there's a lot going on in September, we've still got it done. I have
I
to
can-
step out, but I'm for either of those. And I will see you all at the meeting on the 1st.
Okay, I actually
And I
had,
won't talk to more than 2 of you at a time.
I wanted to show the outline. Do you have
Oh.
just a minute?
Me?
Yeah.
Yes, go.
Here. And that's not the meeting, that's my other project. Okay.
there it is.
Okay, so basically what I've done is I've given a brief community plan summary, and what I'll do is I'll print off these two because they're in the shape that you could read, and I'll send those out, or I'll put that in on the website. But basically we have the visions and values, or well, executive summary, brief community history, that is in brief, as in one page. Visions and values, those are the subheadings. State goals and land use analysis, that's what happened, what we want to have happen. I think we'll probably have to have a section on the impact of SB 406. Then we'll
Yep.
have proposed policies, changes to existing, any new. Then directions for the future is the section where we say, this is what we'd like to have. And it's not necessarily for the county, but this is what we'd like to have. This will be where we have the support for asking for grants or complaining to to FEMA or whatever. So these are the topics that I've pulled out from discussions.
Mhm.
I moved the detailed history to an appendix. I have an appendix of the previous. I'm going to have the previous requests and the dispositions. That's not done yet, but I'm getting that from Guy, and then I'll have a set of maps in the back.
Great.
Brilliant. I
Yeah.
love it.
Yeah, good work, putting all those ideas in a good order.
Okay. So if I have your acquiescence on that, I'll consider I'll continue to develop that just to give you an idea. I have some things, but there are pieces like that needs to be there, and I have headings, but no actual content. So this may not be as polished as might have looked at the beginning. But I would appreciate
Okay.
feedback on the executive summary and any topics that need to be added to the table of contents.
And this is accessed through the website.
I will send it. I will send out. I will put it. I'm going to make a new folder called Community Plan Drafts,
Uh-huh.
and I put this in as a outline R0, and
Okay.
send out a pointer to them.
Okay.
Dynamite. Thank you.
I got to scoot, but thank you. It looks great, Tom. Really appreciate it. Thank you
Hopefully-
all.
Right. Thanks
care.
for making it for the first part. Thanks, Lynn. Okay.
Okay,
And
actually,
Guy said-
stop sharing.
Okay. And Guy was driving to Portland, so he's in Portland and said, "Are you still meeting?" I said, "Yes." So we may see him in a second.
But we still have quorum, so we're okay.
That's true. We do still have quorum, so that's great. Glad we caught you. So as far as what's on here, unless we hear something new from Guy, which I somewhat doubt, I think that's what we had on the agenda today.
We were gonna talk about what you're gonna say at the meeting, what you're gonna say at the Nescoin Community Association meeting.
Okay. Well, there are probably a few things now that I have to add as far as meetings and schedule, but we don't know. And here are the things. And I would love it if other people had shared that tiny spotlight so that I really think the community, it'd be better if they knew more members of the committee and heard from those people rather than me blabbing, because I'm already on the NCA board and will be introducing the Midnight Pavers and their proposal and how we want that to work. So I'm on the floor a bit.
Well, Tom, how would you feel about presenting the vision and values and the outline of the plan, since you know it the most intimately?
I can certainly talk to those. Yeah.
Okay, well, that would be great, because I think that's the big news from our committee is that we have these items in order and that they can take the first piece anyway with them and getting your explanation about the rest of it, and we'll have read that by then. And I think that would be really helpful for them to understand where the overall plan is as they walk away with one of the documents
Okay.
at that point in time. So that would be great.
If you'd, I did not write down any of those meetings because I figured you would.
That's okay.
Here.
Well, so this is the Community Association has a meeting on Memorial Day and a meeting on Labor Day, and that's besides 4th of July, that's and their fundraising stuff. That's their main general meetings of the year. So on Sunday at 4, there will be a general meeting at the fire hall with whatever 75 to 100 chairs set up for people. And the community plan is on the agenda, probably as a subhead of the NCAC, which I don't know if anyone's presented from the CAC in the previous meetings. I always did that because I was on both boards. So I don't know if Mark plans to do a presentation. He might want to tell the group about the September 25th and the October 16th meetings.
Well, you
And
just send me a list of the things you want me to mention, and I'll mention them.
okay, a Tom list.
Yeah.
Okay, I think it'll be pretty straightforward. Well, I will do that. And that'll be, yeah. Hi, Guy.
Hi.
I ran. Am I late?
You missed Lynn.
You missed Lynn. She just checked out. She only had the first hour available.
Okay.
Um,
Well, I'm filling in.
okay. And the keys so far was looking at the meeting schedule and planning on what to do for the NCA meeting on Sunday at 4. And did you plan to be there at that meeting?
Yes.
Okay, so Tom's going to present about the vision and value statement and the updated the general plan and the organizing of it, which we just saw, and he has a copy that you can access pretty soon. And so we're going to hand out at that meeting kind of a checklist of good neighbor measures that we're asking people to say if they want to rate it 1 to 5, or, you know, how do you respond to these? The idea of a good neighbor agreement that people would sign and that would help with the high density housing impacts. So we talked about it at the last meeting with noise, light, parking, smoke from barbecues, that kind of a thing. They have a statement that puts it out there to say, would you be open to agreeing to some things that we made sure the short-term rental people were going to do, and the county put that forward. Now we're putting something forward that our community agrees that we all could be responsible to these issues, and it would make it a more be more civilized around here.
Do we have a copy of that? Or-
We haven't written it yet.
Oh,
We'll have it written this week and we'll send it around for proofing.
Guy, do you have an example from any other communities?
I couldn't hear her, sorry.
Do you have an example from any other communities?
No,
No.
no, no.
So a couple of years ago, the county came up with a good neighbor thing for the SDR people to all agree to and to put in place. So we'll reference that. We'll get a hold of that somehow. Should be in any short-term rental. We could just go over. Okay. And so the one thing that we couldn't do is review Guy's R1 through R3 ordinances draft because you weren't here, and I suspect that hasn't moved anywhere because of the
Well, one thing I did, and you saw some of the results of that, Rand, is I attended last week a farm and forest workshop that was put on by both the Department of Agriculture and by the Department of Land Conservation and Development. And Sarah also attended. And one of the reasons why well, a couple of reasons why I attended. One, just because as a planning commissioner, we have so much farm and forest issues. But I also wanted to kind of track down, what does farm and forest use mean in our R1 and R3 zones? And one of the things that is, I wrote one of the presenters, who happened to be a former Tillamook County planner, and she came back with a pretty good explanation about right to farm and other kinds of things, and also pointed out that there is a definition in the Tillamook County community, in the comprehensive plan of what farming uses are, and that would be allowed in our residential zones. And then, but there's no definition of what forest uses are, that we're kind of on our own there. And, you know, it can be quite concerning if somebody started some kind of farm operation in the village. So our problem, and I had an exchange with Sarah, is again, we're faced with this whole takings thing. If we even make farm and forest uses conditional, which in my mind would resolve it, because the criteria for conditional use takes into account what the neighborhood is, in a sense. Does it fit within other uses within the neighborhood generally? But we can't even do that. So that's something we're going to have to look to. And I'm trying to figure out how we can look at restricting those uses. And maybe, Rand, we can send to the committee that section from the county comprehensive plan that describes what farm uses are, what they are, and what would be allowed in a residential zone in Nescoin.
So would that be from her response to you?
Well, it was in her email, but we can also look it up. I mean, either way, I can send it to you if you need. So, but that's about the biggest thing. It's trying to track down what those would mean. The whole right to farm idea, which trumps everything in terms of restrictions in Oregon. So, yeah.
Well, I would probably keep that in committee for a while as we sort that out, because
Oh,
we
yeah. Yeah.
gotta give them the, yeah, I wouldn't want to hand that out at this meeting, but I think it's
No,
definitely
no.
valuable discussion for our committee. And that, the next meeting is September 9th, but.
I think it would be great if we could have Sarah present at these meetings so we could have a discussion about some of these things.
Yes, this is probably the biggest challenge right now, keeping Sarah engaged, given her significant distractions.
Yeah.
And our next meeting is set for September 9th. That's our subcommittee meetings. And that will be a time that will determine whether we'll have a meeting on the 21st or not. If we can't get any traction, we don't want to present to the public if we don't have enough of an update to knock their socks off.
And do you think that it's even realistic to think we'd have any ordinances to consider by September 21st?
No.
I would like to have a conversation, our committee have a conversation with Sarah. You know, and I know what we get this whole Measure 56 issue. But it just seems to me that there's some things that, some uses that the county would be willing to risk that. But we'll see. I'm sorry, I'm in the middle of a gathering here.
Okay. So,
But
well, we can discuss it on the 9th of September. That's when we'll have to decide if we're gonna have a second meeting in September of the subcommittee, or do any kind of a public meeting That's what kind of the consensus to date has been, without being able to grab Sarah and get some firmed up results of our conversations. We're kind of unable to provide what we thought we could provide at this time. So I would say we can continue our own committee discussions, but the ninth, between probably at the ninth meeting on the 9th, which is our bi-weekly meeting, that is when we can determine if we will do any other presentations in September. You missed it. Gary pointed out there's a lot of going on as far as meetings, presentations, STR caps, a FEMA thing in mid-October. So we just gotta somehow get time with Sarah, and if we can do that on the 9th, I'll try to get this, see if Sarah can make that our committee meeting, subcommittee meeting at that time. If not, maybe I'll ask her if we can get together on the 21st. I mean, we just have to be able to get some time to do the work that she's basically so integral to.
And I hate to say this, but I'm gonna be traveling on the 9th and might not be in a place where I have any kind of connection, even cellular. So if I had a choice, I mean, I just think we're gonna be delayed on things because of Sarah's schedule. But the 21st would be a better time for me, because my time on the 9th is gonna be iffy.
A mess. Okay, well,
But if you're traveling quite a bit, that will make it even harder to get the ordinances ready.
yeah,
So maybe the 21st is unrealistic.
yeah. Okay, but well, we can't, I don't know if we can't meet on the, if we can't get anything. Well, if you can find,
Rand, did I send you? I did
Hillary,
added some language to the purpose of the R1 and R3 zones. Did I send that to you for the committee?
I don't think so.
Well, let me send, because I did work trying, without changing the uses. I changed some of the, just a few words in the purpose language, just to emphasize.
Oh,
housing.
right. No, you did. That was just, I think we reviewed that at the last meeting.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
So that's one change we're gonna try to recommend.
Right, that's the one we misread and thought you were trying to make it more adamant when in fact you were trying to be general about that.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I have to say I'll go look for it because I'll have to. Okay,
And I think I also suggested, and I know our vision and values are kind of complete, or as complete as we might get them, but a value is that residential zones be focused on housing needs of our residents and visitors. And I can't remember, I don't have it, and I apologize, I don't have the vision and value statement in front of me. If we feel that there's a statement in there that does emphasize residential use in residential zones.
And let's see.
That seems like something that we want in there, and we should put it in there before we present it to the community association.
right now it's pretty general in that it says for, places for people to live whatever life they want to live or something, it's clearly saying we support people
it is primarily about the livability of Nesquin. So sort of, it doesn't say it explicitly, but everything that's in it sort of points that way.
Yeah.
I think it might be better to be more subtle than to. very
Okay.
simple.
Yeah, and then if you have, in the areas of policy and such, then we can be more strident, maybe in the policy area. Say, we definitely prioritize residency in residential areas, but, all the vagaries of language and being cautious and when you want to be clear and, oh, yeah. Okay, well, I think,
You know, this is just a very quick, like, reading of this, but under community character and values, the first paragraph says, there is a desire for guidelines that preserve the unique characters of the distinct neighborhoods and their residential priority. You could just put something in like that, and the priority of residential use or something like that.
mhm.
I'm just, if, I don't want to set off Sarah's hot button. And because if she didn't agree that this is a good thing, it's not a good thing. I think I'd rather keep it a little less out front. I mean, everything in it talks about living there.
Yeah.
Well, prioritizing residential use in a residential area seems to already be self.
Yeah, there's a place to put that in the outline. Maybe I should bring up the outline again.
Well, again, it may be better in the ordinance itself when it describes what the purpose of a residential zone is. And remember, even though it sounds obvious what a residential zone is, in the ordinance, I think the first or second use is farm and forest uses as outright uses. So it's
Somewhat contradictory in the.
yeah, exactly.
That's
So I
why-
think in the purpose language of what the residential zone is, again, going back to what I was trying to do, and maybe there's a better way of saying it, is to emphasize residential use in a residential zone as the primary, or not prime, we can't use the term primary, but as purpose or focus or whatever. I'll go back and look. I don't have that language in front of me. I don't have that what I wrote up.
Also, it seems appropriate that that is a value that's important to people that live here. Like if you talk to most homeowners and renters here, they would say, yes, being in a residential neighborhood with residences is one of the reasons why I like being here.
Right.
Don't really want a batch of chickens next door.
Right,
Yeah. Well, they can only have chickens if they're making money off them.
right. They have to sell the eggs or sell the chickens.
Yeah, you have to have it. It has to be a business,
It
which
doesn't
makes it
mean-
even better.
Okay, well, we definitely, that's,
So just to beat a dead horse here, or something, whatever the wording is, in the second paragraph under community character and values, it says, as different as neighborhoods are, there is general agreement that community members enjoy Nesquin's relaxed beachside atmosphere and residential neighborhoods or residential character or residential. I mean, we could reinforce that in several places that prioritizes the residential nature.
yeah,
I'll
it
see,
seems,
I'll see what I can do to worm something in on that.
Yeah,
okay.
I think we're safe on the vision and value statements. We can make statements like that. It's not removing a use, which is the issue.
Okay,
It's also a use and priority that people assume is there until it's taken away, everyone kind of is like, well, of course you can only have a residence here until there's a horse business.
In a cemetery, in somebody's backyard,
And
Yeah.
in a cable crossing. Okay. Well, this is a confusing set of notes from today's meeting. There's a lot going
Okay.
on.
Just photograph, just photograph it and put it on the line. So that's our minutes for today.
Well, no, we're going to do an AI companion density experiment to get, it's been recording all this and we'll make a condensed transcript or summary of it. So we're going to see that first use today. Gary advised us to do that and to see how we like it. So given the wide-ranging discussion today, I'm very glad you suggested that, Gary, because I'm going to need it.
Oh, yeah. And it's like I said, it's not quite as terse as a regular human being would do it. So it actually is quite, it's almost a transcript of the entire meeting. Not quite, but there's still a lot to read through. So yeah, and it'll make mistakes. So just kind of watch yourself.
That's fine. Yeah, we've used it at other times and it was, it's pretty darn close.
Yeah.
So,
If
okay.
it's the same software that Jeff had, I think it is.
Yeah, I think it comes with the package.
Okay.
Zoom.
He may have done it through other options that he had, but it could be what he used.
Yeah.
Well, given all of this, I would propose that without, unless there are public comments from someone who's been hiding out on this phone call or on this Zoom meeting, I think we are clear that we want to have a meeting on September 9th and sort out how we go forward from there, because we would still have time to schedule something if we wanted to, but right now we're looking at the 9th as our next meeting. And the agenda will be somewhat of a reflection of the current agenda again, because of the ordinances being kind of up in the air. We will have presented at the September 1st meeting and can review that. So I'll put that as something on the agenda, is review of the September 1st meeting. Changes building code climate. Oh, 406. We had some suggestions. Oh, we'll have feedback from the September meeting about that. So that will still be on it. And we've got to look at the timeline, but as I always like to bring up the timeline and the community plan as Tom's work progresses. We got a vision, we got a view of that today, Guy. And it's and the vision, values, and then, yeah, I think that's it, because we'll be looking at the meetings that the NCAC has scheduled for FEMA and STRs. So that's what I have for an agenda for next time. And I'll write that up and send that out to you pronto. And other than that, I think
there was a discussion that we had, Tom, before you joined and Guy before you joined. We had a discussion about a sentence that's in the vision and values that says, although the Nesquewan community strongly resists the incorporation of any fossil fuel stations, we do advocate electric vehicle charging stations as a way to help preserve the clear air quality. And I suggested that wording be changed to say that we, I don't know, I personally don't think we want to advocate for the electric charging stations, because we already have a problem with parking for visitors. And as an EV owner, I know that is a way that people plan their trips and could attract people to be coming to Nesquin that they hadn't otherwise planned to. And we already have a parking problem in the summer at the wayside and by the store. So I don't know if there's a way to say that we encourage the use of electric vehicles as an alternative, but not encourage the actual charging stations. I don't know, something to think about. And you might want to listen to the first part of our meeting, the recording of the first part of the meeting, because we talked about it for.
Or was there general agreement that the charging stations were not a good idea?
Lynn agreed with me that they could be an issue, and she thought that if somebody wanted to install them and pay for them, they probably would do it anyway, whether it was in the plan or not.
We can just fail to mention it, and just leave it at, we discourage fossil fuel stations and not even bring it up.
One of the ways that maybe do this is, and I'm not saying it has to be in the vision and value statement, but is there a way we can recommend that our short-term rental homes have the ability to charge electric vehicles? And there are ways, obviously, ways to do that. And that way you're not attracting people to like a string of charging stations at the stores or in the wayside, but within individual homes, they would have the option for somebody, it could be an attractive kind of thing. The last place I stayed at, my wife and I stayed at, had a Tesla. What is the Adventure or something? I can't remember what, a Wayside or Wayfair or something. Tesla charging thing is one of the ways to attract people to come there.
Okay, that's a good solution, to make it specific to residents.
Visitors. Yeah.
Well, residences. We just
Yeah.
encourage residences to have it.
Right.
Yeah,
Residences that have visited. Right. Exactly.
I think that's a good adjustment. It still encourages electric vehicles, but it says put them in the homes and in the residences themselves rather than a public offering.
I think that's a good update.
And it would be for STRs. We're not going to say it for other people or residents
For
here.
anyone, Guy,
Everyone,
doesn't have to be for STRs only.
We
Well,
can
except,
encourage everybody.
Yeah.
This is only encouragement.
it's a vision.
yeah. Okay.
Now, making
Can
it
I-
a requirement for STRs is a good idea.
Yeah.
It's the first part, what for the,
Okay.
What about if we put that we encourage the PUD to assist in it?
To do what? I couldn't hear.
the assist in the, well, they already do. Yeah, they gave us some money to do our install. Or we just do a dryer vent, a dryer, not a vent, a dryer hookup for ours, and it works fine.
Yeah.
But I'll give you money back. Okay,
Okay, I'll
Can I
make that
add-
change and send out an update on that as well.
thank you.
Can I mention two other things, Rand?
Sure.
For the record, one, remember when at Sarah's last presentation, she talked a little bit about building standards, structures, things like that.
Mm-hmm.
And that is something that I thought it was worth looking into in terms of preparing homes, future homes, any kind of remodeling here in Nesquin for the potential of impacts of climate change. And I wrote Sarah about that, or actually I wrote the head of the building department, asking if there were standards out there that he knew of that they could recommend that we would begin to implement in Nesquin, and in particular preparing for more intense storms, higher winds, those kinds of things. I got rebuffed by Sarah, saying not only that our building people are busy, but we follow the state standards. I haven't had a chance to go into the state standards to see what it may say about coastal communities and the impacts of climate change and what changes they may be making but I am going to do that. I do know that, like even building our house, we were under certain standards because we were in a high wind area that people in the village are not. But anyways, so that's one thing. The other thing that I copied Rhiannon on is the Oregon Sea Grant people just appointed kind of a community ecologist, coastal community ecologist. I think that's what her work is. Her work with Sea Grant is going to be working and learning from communities as they plan to be coastal communities. It sounds double talk, but that's what it is. There's a big article on her, which I think, Rand, I forwarded to you. You may want to forward it to the committee. But today was her first day of work. I was going to give her a call, but things changed in my timeline here today. But I will give her a call this week, let her know what we do. If anything, I think what the community planning process is exactly what the kind of thing that she would be interested in. And I don't know if she can contribute much, but I think she could learn a lot about our coastal communities by just being a part of it or listening in on it or being an observer or whatever. But that's another thing we're going to follow up on this week. And I'm still going to pursue the building standards thing.
Yeah, okay, and they have to do it through the state standards, but maybe that's probably a good route to go anyway, because the
Yeah.
county abide by the state standards, so you'll be safe without ridicule there.
Yeah.
So if I'd like to show this change that we just agreed to on the vision and values,
All right,
I added the term in residences. It's highlighted.
That's
there you
great.
go.
Thank you.
That's straight ahead and easy to do. Well done.
Okay, I'll not highlight it.
Okay,
Yeah.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
all right.
Okay, where to stop share? There we go. You don't really want to read well, maybe you do want to read the carving newsletter. See, this time of month, I'm on
Oh, you're
deadline.
crunched.
I'm
You're
on deadline
under
for
the
getting it
crunch
out.
for the editing?
Pardon?
You're under the crunch for the editing?
I am.
Yeah, okay. Looks like it's an amazingly large document as far as I could tell, Tom.
It's going to be 30 pages this month.
Yeah, I mean, that's wild, a newsletter.
It's a
Hey,
monthly newsletter.
oh, geez, they come up with a story a day.
Well, it's a busy time this year, this time of year.
Okay, let's call it a day here. We're at an hour and a half. And
Okay.
that's a lot going on, so I am going to I'm gonna adjourn the meeting and I will get this let's see. I'm trying to figure out what I do to finish. Does the AI companion just end with the meeting, or do you have to end its tracking? You know, Gary?
He's muted.
You're on mute.
Oh, we can't hear you, Gary.
Sorry, I think you can leave the meeting and it'll save everything that it's done up to then. So you don't have to worry about stopping it.
Okay.
Stop the recording.
Okay, so stop recording. Let's see, I think there was something tricky about that. Stop recording.